Okay. Last check. Facebook, we are good. And so on Facebook, you guys should be seeing me. And then over here, and you're probably sick of waiting for me or hearing from me today.
Never.
Never. Good. Okay, here we go. All right, so we are live there, and let me get Ed's glorious face in full. There we go. All right. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Help me out here. This is a newish class for me, but I'm really excited for it, and I'm really excited to see what we do. So first, for those of you guys who are new here, if you're watching this on Facebook, you know I've been live quite a bit today. These will be here, so you'll be able to come back to this and review this. I will expire the videos at a certain point, so don't delay, because classes are at urc.com, and it's for the spring term. So the classes are there. Make sure you check those out. And make sure, you know, if you've got any questions, you get those questions to me ASAP, so I can get answers to you and make sure that you got what you need. Now, we are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on urc.com/p/live. So you can confirm we're good there? Okay, great. And okay, so with that, all that done and said, thanks, Ed. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll talk about the class.
Oh, actually, I have a little PowerPoint presentation, but I want to thank everyone for coming out to this. I'm going to be talking about caricatures. Mm-hmm. I've been a caricature artist in many different forms for roughly 25 years, from live caricatures in theme parks all the way up to Mad Magazine, which is where I am now. And caricature is a passion of mine. I'm really into it, and either traditional or digital, it is my first love. And this class is going to be all about the process of caricatures, how I go about doing it, the thinking that goes into it, maybe some philosophies, and how you could go about becoming a better caricature artist. That's what the goal of this is. With that said, I have a little show here just to kind of get started, to give a brief, just kind of an underlying background of what this class is going to be. This is a 10-week course that begins at the end of April, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. The most important thing to know about this class is that you will focus on drawing, your drawing skills, drawing fundamentals, caricature, and humor. Everything about humor and having a sense of humor and having fun with your work, which is the most important thing, the most important part of my job. So with that, I'm going to switch over screens here. Ryan, help me out. You should see a Character Arts digital caricature and coloring screen. Is that right?
We see it, yep.
You do? Okay. So I'm just going to talk about caricature a bit. Now, like I said before, in this course, we're going to talk about the basis of caricatures, its applications, and what goes into creating a successful caricature. I have to move a window. We'll talk about philosophies of the art, the initial planning of a good caricature, final execution, as well as the digital painting of our final caricature. We're going to do a lot of the digital.
We have a black screen, just so you know.
Yes, I am. Yeah, roughly, actually, I wonder if I have, we'll do the next slide here. Where are we? All right, okay. There we go. That's me, I think. We're going to talk about philosophies and the initial planning of good caricature. Roughly 3/4 of this course will be the digital drawing, which amounts to your basic drawing skills. It doesn't really matter if you're drawing on a computer or the paper, but I'm going to focus on the digital just because then we can share it and we can all see each other's drawings. The remaining 1/4 will be finalizing and rendering our caricature digitally to produce a final illustration. For the record, my preferred drawing tools are going to be pencil and paper, obviously, and then Adobe Photoshop, and I'm going to be on a Wacom Cintiq. You're welcome to use whichever traditional tools you prefer, and then whichever digital tools you're comfortable with. But if you're using Photoshop, I will be able to help you with references, brushes, etc. but that's entirely up to you. So let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about me, and I'm going to start that with my favorite caricature quote of all time. John Cash is a fantastic caricature illustrator. I'm sure you've seen his work. He's amazing. He has work in the National Portrait Gallery in DC, and he's one of the people that I really look up to. He said, "A caricature is a portrait with the volume turned up." I don't even think this quote was really planned out. I think he just thought it up, and I heard him say it, and I just love that. So that's that. That's how I go about looking at caricatures. Now, what's the point of a caricature is also one thing that we're gonna tackle in this course. It's editorial comment, statement on the person, telling a story, and making a comment on your subject. I'm gonna show a few styles here. Now I have samples here by different famous artists. This is by a guy named Al Hirschfeld. Al Hirschfeld drew for he was about 99 when he died, and he was a master of minimal line caricatures, worked for the New York Times. We're not going to focus on individual styles, but I just want to show the range of what caricature can be. This is the most elegant, simple caricatures that I know of. Go from this all the way to Sebastian Kruger, German illustrator, who does really extreme caricature like this. This is a master painter who is a master caricaturist. These are all acrylics, by the way. Minimal line. More examples of Sebastian Kruger, and all the principles that are going into these drawings that I'm showing, all have their basis in good understanding of caricature, understanding of the face. This is by a friend of mine, Tom Richmond, who is another Mad Magazine artist. He does the movie parodies in Mad now. And this is by a guy named Mort Drucker, who is also one of the old-time Mad Magazine artists known for his movie satires and TV satires. This is another example of a good caricature by John Cash, who I gave that great quote from before. These are all very, very different examples of what a caricature can do, what a caricature can look like, but they all have the same underlying theme. It's humor and understanding of the face, and they all say something about the subject. This is one of mine. Then we're going to get into my work a little bit. Like I said, I draw for Mad Magazine and a lot of other people. I do a lot of advertising work. A lot of this is a t-shirt design. Here's examples of more caricatures and various applications of caricatures. These are all. This one took me a long time. And another one, just lots of different people, lots of different characters, lots of different clients. You go from this to something like this. I have no idea who this guy is, but I was told I had to draw him, and it was a gig. This is Mad Magazine. This is a couple issues ago. This was an article. All that white space in the upper left was all text and gags and funny stuff that this drawing was illustrating. There's another one. Jeff Bezos. This is an article all about Amazon taking over Whole Foods and what that might be like. And this is an example of using caricature to help tell a story. So the point of some of these is not the caricature itself, but it's applying the caricature to some other situation. In this case, this Whole Foods thing. That's my wife Heather there, by the way. She likes this drawing. Other examples of caricatures is this. For technique, this one is drawn in pen and ink and it is colored digitally. So we're going to do a lot of digital color business in this whole course. More examples of caricatures for different people, different clients. This is one of my favorites. I still like this one. It's a little bit dated, but I don't care. So with that, you can ask yourself, what am I going to get out of this class? Well, we're going to focus on, like I said, fundamentals of some drawing, fundamentals of caricature. We're going to do a lot of sketching, and we're going to do a lot of gesture drawings, and we're going to work on how we think about a subject. Here's a good example of just a quick sketch caricature. We're going to do a lot of these. And I'm going to kind of walk you through the process of what I go through when I start doing a drawing like this. This is actually drawn on an iPad, but you know, it looks like a pencil drawing. It's quick, it's sketchy, and it's loose. And I find that that's the best way to start out a drawing. Do a bunch of quick sketches like this. Another one. This is actually a humorist or a political cartoonist named Mike Ramirez. I never heard what he thought about this drawing. We're going to talk a little bit about different applications of caricatures. You saw all the Mad Magazine stuff and the print stuff and the t-shirt stuff, but I'm going to also focus a little bit on doing live caricatures. Now, like I said, I started drawing caricatures a long time ago in a theme park in Minnesota, and I drew and I drew and I drew thousands and thousands of paying customers their caricatures, and that's how I learned. That's how I really got the crash course in how to draw caricatures. Now what I do is I do a lot of digital drawing like this. This is drawn live at a gig, some party or something somewhere. I don't know, I have no idea where. This drawing here took about 5 minutes, and I do corporate events where people hire me to do just a bunch of these things. And they're a whole lot of fun, and these are the same caricature fundamentals that go into these are the ones that also go into stuff for MAD, stuff for publications, any other application where you might see a caricature. This is just various live caricature examples. These are a lot of fun. They're very quick, they're very loose. This guy was a lot of fun to draw. We're going to go from live digital caricatures to more polished stuff. This was a job I did for a t-shirt company. This is a whole lot of fun. It's all digital caricature. It's all the same. It's all the same thinking. It's about how to tell the story of a person's face. What makes that person that you're drawing, your subject, different from everybody else? And what a caricature is a caricature exemplifies that. And it's like we said before, it's like a portrait with the volume turned up. Now we can do more polished caricatures, things like this. Remember the show Sons of Anarchy? I did this caricature lineup. This is just for fun. I did this in front of the TV. These are all the characters from a TV show. I was just practicing. Here's more Mad Magazine stuff. This is another example of an application of caricature where caricature is not the joke. Caricature isn't the gag. This is using caricature to help sell a gag. This is in, I believe, the most current issue of Mad Magazine. It happens to be the art director of Mad Magazine. And there's Ryan Flanders. So that's it. So that's what my little slideshow is. What I thought I'd do now is I'm going to switch over and do some drawing demos. Ryan, you still there?
I am. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And before you go, are you guys still getting an echo from me, or is it gone? Just give me a quick...
I can hear you.
Yeah, on the live stream there was an echo, and I think I found what it was. So sometimes it takes a second for, like I think there's a 45-second delay, so I'll just wait 2 seconds for you guys, either on YouTube. Is the echo gone? Yes or no? Yeah, it looks like it's gone. All right, thanks, Mustafa. I appreciate that. And I hear no echo, Tomas. Thanks. Yeah, I had two mics actually reading in, which was always pleasant. So yes, no, let's jump right in, and I'm gonna let you do your thing. And if you guys have questions, we're gonna have a Q&A at the end. But I might pop in every now and then and just ask a little clarification.
Is that Tomas from? The ZBrush Tomas?
No, this is a different Tomas. Gutierrez.
All right, so I have my Photoshop screen set up here, and I got some examples. This is the kind of thing we're gonna start out doing. We're gonna get reference of people, and after I talk a lot about caricature and what you think about and using your unconscious brain to actually bring the unconscious forward and make a statement on that person, we're going to have to just do the old-fashioned way and go find reference of people and do our drawing from that. So I just took a stab in the dark and figured, I always thought Fred Arneson had kind of a great face. So I went and got some reference of him, and I'm going to do a quick drawing of him in Photoshop. So you can you see my screen?
Yep.
I hope you can see my screen. Okay. So I'm just going to make a new canvas here, and normally I would have all these reference shots on another screen, but I want to have them here just so people can see what's going on. So what I did was I opened up, I have an action to create a bunch of different sizes of canvases, and they all have a blue layer, a color layer, and an inks layer. Now, on top of that blue layer, I'm also going to add a couple layers of highlights and shadow. So now I have, in my layers palette here, I have blue, shadows, highlights, color, and inks. I still call it inks because when I started doing this, everything was done with ink, and I'm just old-fashioned. So I'm going to grab a light. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of look at all these photos of Fred. I don't want to choose one photo and simply draw it. I want to do my own drawing of Fred. So I have lots of different pictures of him here. If you see, I have a profile. I have a 3/4 view. I have different expressions straight on. This funny one. I used to do prints. And I'm going to use all of these and try to do an accurate Fred Arneson. Hopefully I can pull this off live. All right, so I'm going to go to my layers here, and I'm just going to take the regular standard Photoshop brush, and I'm going to reduce the opacity and the flow all the way down. And I'm going to sit back. Right now you can't see me, but I'm sitting back in my chair. Whenever I do this, I have a barber chair that I sit in, and it's really comfy, and it swivels. And I like to lean all the way back, and I do some squinting, and I look at my subject, and I try to really learn that person's face. I get a feel for it. What makes it different than everybody else's face, and what do I want to say about this person? So I think I'm gonna use this one on the bottom right here. This one I'm going to use as my main image. So I'm just going to see. I hope you can see the screen. I'm doing a light blue line sketch. That is just going to be, you can see it. Okay, good. And I'm just really roughing in stuff. You know that Fred has kind of a weak chin, so I'm going to push his chin up. Yes. And I'm working out to in, which is just a coincidence. Every drawing I do, I tend to start it differently depending on my mood. Sometimes I work outside in, sometimes I work inside to out. It just depends on my mood. So he's got this and nose, and I'm not going to talk through the whole thing because I want to make sure I concentrate. But I'm just going to roughen these glasses. And I'm just giving myself a basis to do a tighter drawing over this. Fred has fantastic eyes. They're big, they're expressive. And I'm going to start, this is going to be my starting point. And I'm normally, when you do a caricature, you don't want to just focus on the head. But for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to focus on his head and face. Caricature goes all the way through the body. So even though a lot of those party caricatures you saw were just, you know, head and shoulders, when you really think about a caricature, you have to think about the person as a whole and what's going on with their posture, what are their hands doing, all that. So now I have a kind of a really loose sketch. I'm going to create another layer here. Reduce the opacity of that first layer. And also normally right now I'd be zooming in and zooming out, but I don't want you to lose these reference shots. So I'm gonna go to the part of his face I think is most important to tell his story. In this case would be right his eyes. He's got big expressive eyes. His glasses take up a lot of my attention. When you do a caricature, you have to do a lot of squinting. When you squint at someone, if you close your eyes and squint to the point where you can barely see anymore, what's left in your field of vision is what's important. So if you just close your eyes and squint at any of these, especially this one I'm kind of using as a main reference, if you squint at it so everything's really blurry, you're going to get a lot of attention into his eyes, his eyebrows, his dark glasses, and less on, say, the shape of his head or the size of his chin. The most important part of this guy's face is his eyes, and that's not always the case. Sometimes the most important part of someone is their head shape or their hair or this and that. With Fred, it's all about his eyes. He's got big expressive eyes. I'm going to focus on those, which doesn't always mean making those bigger, but it just means that I'm going to use those as my focal point. And that's the kind of thing that we're really going to talk about in this class. Approaching each subject differently. And sorry. It's hard to talk and draw. So let's create eyebrows. And again, I'm still just roughing this in. Downward smile. Using that drawing underneath, and I'm fixing things as I go. You see, I think I drew that mouth up a little bit too low, so I'm going to raise it up a bit in this sketch. Lips, chin, and I'm as I'm doing this, I'm ducking in and out. If you could see me, I'd look like a complete idiot when I draw. I'm ducking and dodging back and forth because I want to get the view of the drawing from all different angles. If you do a drawing, whether it's on paper or digitally, and you're leaning in and you're hovering over your paper, where you get this kind of fisheye thing happening. So it'll look good when you're really, really close to it, but when you back up, things will be kind of skewed. So you always want to make sure that you're getting every different view of your drawing. And I think the second drawing already, I can see, I'm starting to see him in there now, more so than the first one. So I'm just really roughing it in. And this is the process that's the most fun. This is where the sketching is. And this is where I had the most fun, actually. This is where you get to, you don't have to worry about every individual line. If you mess up, it doesn't really matter. My lines are real light. They're real. I know that this is a preliminary drawing, so I'm not worried about how my drawing looks just yet. But I want to pay attention to what's going on there. I'm going to draw I think his eyes are a little bit closer together than most. It's one of these things. So now I have this drawing, and I think that's a little bit closer, but I'm going to do another one. A layer here. I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer. The good thing about Photoshop is that you can add as many layers as you want to stuff until you get it right. Now I'm going to do an even tighter sketch yet using this blue, and I really think I need to beef up those glasses because they are really, really dark. And again, I'm just using the typical regular Photoshop brush in this. I use a lot of Kyle's brushes when I am doing color, if I want texture and all that. But just for something like this, I'm just using what's there. It's because I don't need to worry about what my brush looks like right now. I can see using the other photos here that his eyebrows have a lot of different shapes and a lot of different, he's really animated. So he's got these lines here in some drawings, and I like those. Those add a lot of expression. I'm going to kind of monkey with the placement of his eyes here because I have to kind of know how facial anatomy works. What these lines between the forehead, why are they there? We'll talk a bit about that anatomy, how things work. You have to understand how the face works to do a good caricature. That stuff, that's just textbook stuff. We'll go through that, and we'll learn, that's fun too. And then drawing glasses. One of the things I hate drawing is glasses. Oh boy, I'd rather just draw organic, fun things. With glasses, you have to kind of slow down and get the shape of right. So he has this great outward, his smile lines really shoot out. You don't, oftentimes smile lines come off the nose and they do this. They push down that way. Fred's do not. Fred's smile lines go up and they push that way, which is a bit unusual. It adds a lot of character. He also has this puckery thing at the end of his mouth here. See if you can see, really, there's a piece of muscle right here that I'm circling. Fred's are very pronounced. That's fun to draw. I'm just going to draw a sketch of his mouth here. I want to get the shape of his lips, his full lips. One of these. I think I'd like to open his mouth a little bit because a lot of these, his mouth is open. So looking at this picture on the left, in the middle, he oftentimes has just a really light smile, just a polite smile. And that's the kind of thing I think of when I think of Fred Arneson. Just kind of like blasé. Hey, I'm cool. Now I'm just going to kind of work my way down, making changes from the underlying sketch as I go, as I see fit. Get these dimple lines in here, the smile lines, or his cheeks here, I mean. And let's see, his jaw. I'm not going to make his jaw as big as I did in the underlying sketch because I think it doesn't need it. And when I do this, I try to use Control-Z as little as possible. That's one thing. When you're doing traditional drawings on paper, you know, if you mess up, a lot of times you have to live with it more than you would digitally. So I try to use the Control-Z as little as possible. Sometimes it's completely unavoidable, but if you have the mindset where, you know, I don't need to undo that, maybe I can make it work. That's where you get the happy accidents. So I'm a big fan of. A lot of my work is happy accidents. Let's see. And he has different hair in each one of these, so I'm just going to give him this parted deal that he's got here in the lower left. We're going to talk a lot about how to construct hair. A lot of people have trouble with hair. The way I look at hair is I see it as one shape, or a couple shapes, in front, the top, and the sides. And I'm not worried about drawing every individual hair. I'm worried. I want to explain which way the hair is going, the direction of it, but I don't want to get too carried away with it. A lot of people really spend too much time on hair, trying to draw every individual hair, and there's a lot of secrecy around that. And we'll talk a lot about that. Now I'm going to go in. If you notice, I save the eyes till last. The way I see it, the eyes are kind of like the punchline to the joke. So I can look at this and see where I'm going. And, you know, I don't know why I'm giving him a hoodie. I don't picture it. You know what? I do not picture Fred Arneson with a hoodie, so I'm not going to give him one. I'm going to do something else. I think just like something like a Portlandia hipster jacket, something like that. T-shirt. To me, that's more Fred Arneson-y. Now I'm going to zoom in, and I kind of know where I'm going to put those eyes, so I can zoom in. Now I can do this part. This is where you really have to slow down. You want to get the eyes right. So I'm looking at this drawing. I can see that his eyes are, his left eye is higher on the outside, lower on the inside. You see I'm making little lines here. This line here that I'm over-exaggerating right now is where his tear duct is going to be. Out here is where the corner of his outside eye is. So, and his other eye is a very different shape than the eye on our right is very different shape than the eye on our left, which is interesting. I need to turn off my notifications. Sorry about that. I'm going to do that. All right, I guess I won't turn off my notifications. Okay, so I am going to work on getting these really great buggy eyes. His eyes are open a little bit too much, which is fun. It's rare that you can look at someone and see the top of their pupil. It's you know, generally the pupil rests up against the top of the eyelid when someone is relaxed. This face here that he's making kind of a crazy eye space, which is really how I picture Fred Arneson. So I'm going to use this one a lot. But again, I'm still keeping in mind all these other drawings. I just want to make sure I understand how his face is constructed and how it's put together. And it's hard to get all the information you need from one photo. Big round eyes. This one dips down at the other end. Eyelashes. And remember, this is still a sketch, so I'm still going to be making revisions on this when I get to the final, which I'm going to do after this. And then we're going to talk about facial anatomy, things like, you know, what's going on with eyelids? You know, you need to know all that kind of stuff. The more you know about true physical anatomy, the better a job you'll do at creating a successful caricature. I'm a big fan of, learning about how things work. What happens when you smile? When you smile, it's not just a matter of the mouth being turned up. It's a matter of, lots of different things. The cheeks squinch up, they pull the mouth, they pull the chin up, the face changes when you smile. And that's the kind of stuff that I really get into and I love talking about. And it is hard to do a caricature when you're talking. And I'm going to just put those pupils in here. And I'm going to use this as the underlying sketch for my final drawing, which I'm going to do now. It's still not quite there. So I can see that in my final drawing, which I'm going to try to do now, I'm going to grab my different color. I'm going to really try to pay attention to what's going on. I want to make sure that I make all the changes I have to make a successful caricature. Now I'm going to start with the eyes. Oops, I got to raise I always keep the opacity and flow of my brushes right around 80%. Both of them, especially when I'm drawing. Photoshop has this new feature called smoothing, which I can't really figure out. I have it at 9. I don't really know why. I'll just leave it there. It's supposed to make your lines less shaky, but I don't know. Why would you want to do that, I say? But I'll leave it on because I started with it on, I'll finish with it on. Okay. Now, one thing we're also going to talk about is how to put down a good line. You notice I'm not agonizing over each line. I'm putting lines down quickly. Now, I'm not thinking about making each line perfect. What I'm thinking about is how the lines are going to interact with one another. I don't want to sit and draw slow. You have to watch it. Maybe you can see this. Right now, I'm just cartoonishly drawing slow. That's what you don't want to do. What you want to do is you want to have energy in every line that you draw. So I'm just going to throw lines down like that as best I can. And lines like that are drawn quickly have a lot more to say than lines that are agonized over like this. And actually, one week of the class is based on things just that alone. Using line to your advantage. We'll just add his eyelashes. I am going to make a decision to bring his nose down. I have to turn my notifications off. I don't know how to do that. This is so frustrating. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want that. Sorry, everybody.
Try exiting Messenger.
Messenger?
Because that's what you're getting, the Messenger things. So if you go down to the bottom, you should see Messenger open. I switched over to PC, so I'm a little fuzzy, but.
Oh, there it is. Do not disturb. How's that? Aha!
Well, that'll work.
That took me way too. That I'm a doofus. Now I'm looking at this drawing.
Go for it.
Yes. I'm looking at this drawing of Fred. I'm going to make changes. Now that one of the good things about Photoshop is I can go in. I need his eyes to be started. I like the shape of them, but I don't like the way that I like the size of them, how they relate to the rest of the face. Make his eyes bigger, and I'm going to make them closer to his nose.
I'm losing your audio just a touch.
How about that? Maybe I should lean in a bit.
Yep, there you go.
I'm also going to lower his nose. These lines here, this is basic facial anatomy. Again, we'll be talking a lot about that. How to construct a face. That's fun stuff. I like that stuff. I'm going to just completely disregard my sketch, and I'm going to finish up his nose the way I think it should be, because I also, on my other screen, I had the same drawing open, but it's smaller, and I can see how a drawing looks when it's a different size. I'm looking at it, and I can see that that's not the Fred Arneson that I am thinking about. So now I'm just, when I did this, I lowered his nose, I put his eyes closer together. Now it's making more sense to me. So I'm going to adjust things accordingly. There's those great smile lines of his. I'm squinting. I want to make sure that when I put a line down that I can still see him in it. If I look at this and it doesn't, my mind doesn't fill in the gaps, that means I might be doing something wrong. So I'm going to try this again. You can see me. I look like a complete moron. I'm squinting. I'm making funny faces. My tongue sticks out a lot when I draw. That's fun. Let me get the shape of his mouth. Lips. Again, I spend a lot of time I spend a lot of time focusing on line weight, making your lines work for you. Now I'm leaning back. Okay. Now I'm getting somewhere. So I want to go back up because that's where the wind's blowing. I'm going to focus more. I'm going to go back up to his eyebrows. His eyebrows are pretty gnarly. They're nice. So I'm going to build them up. Draw eyebrows. Hairs on the outside tend to do that. The ones in the middle go over, and the ones on the inside shoot down like that. So this is the general direction of hairs in eyebrows. And yes, we'll focus a lot on that. I'm going to give him a more surprised look, because that's what my gut is telling me to do. A lot of caricature is just trusting your own instincts as well. Everybody's going to draw everybody differently. That's the best part about caricature. It's completely subjective. I think that's the right word. I hope it is. And that everybody's going to draw it differently. Some structure here. And I need to make his chin a little small. He has a pretty weak chin, so I'm just going to push it way up. You get the shape of it, but I'm paying attention to how the chin and how the lips and how the nose, how everything interacts with each other. It's one thing to get the shape of all the features right. It's another to get the relationship between the features right. That's the harder part. So I'm less worried about the shape of things. I'm more worried about how things are reacting to each other. Smile line is where that dimple would be. And you notice I haven't done the glasses yet because I'm drawing in kind of a sepia color, which I usually do. In those glasses, I'm going to draw on a different layer over this. You see how the outside line here is a whole lot thicker than the inside lines? There's a lot more contrast between this and this and this than there is between, say, this and this. That's why I use a heavier line. It goes back to all that line weight stuff. That applies to digital drawing and traditional drawing. Okay, I'm going to do a layer here for his glasses because his glasses are really distinctive. Oops. Do I have it? Okay. Let's see. I'm going to get my black. And actually, for this, I'm going to reduce or increase the opacity and flow of my brush to 100%. I'm going to really have some fun with these glasses. They are really showy. When you wear glasses like this, they really are a statement. Some glasses are meant to be kind of hidden. These glasses are definitely a fashion statement. That's the most you'll ever hear me talk about fashion. And I'm throwing down lines and trying to get the shape of them right. Here's my Control Z I said I didn't want to use. There we go. I'm just going to color in and just try to get, I want to get these glasses somewhat correct. I'm just going to build them up here. And I'll add highlights and stuff later. Glasses really help tell the story of your subject, so you don't want to just throw them away. You have to really kind of get the shape on. Okay. Now when I zoom out, I think this is a little bit better. Now I can see where I'm going with this drawing. He has a big forehead. Again, he's got these great forehead lines. I'm going to add a few lines here, so I know how those. Let's draw his ears. His ears aren't too important. They're there. You never want to throw. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. You never want to throw away. I drew this all on the wrong layer, so I have to back up. Another good thing about Photoshop. So I'm going to just do everything I just did, but I'm going to do it real quick. What Photoshop is that if you ever draw on the wrong layer, you can just back everything up. Or, of course, I could select everything and cut it from that layer and move it to a different layer. But sometimes I don't think about things. So now I am drawing his ears, trying to get the shape. The ears are important. A lot of people, when they draw, once they get to the ears, they kind of just throw away and just do like generic this and that. You want to pay attention to ears. Ears are important. You want to do an accurate representation of your subject. I'm going to draw this hair. Again, about hair, I'm not worried about drawing every individual hair. I'm more worried about the highlights in the hair than I am the hair itself. And we'll talk a lot about that. All right. So now I'm going to just kind of continue him down a bit. Some cross hatching. Adam's apple. See how I'm making changes to the underlying sketch as I go. The sketch is just a kind of a reference. It's more of a guide, but I'm not relying on it as much as you'd think. I'm basically using that sketch to see what I did wrong. And notice that he has kind of slumpy shoulders, so I put his jacket up a little higher on his neck. Could probably even go higher yet. But now I just want to finish this off a little bit. I've never seen the show Portlandia, and I've seen more than one person raise their eyebrows at that. I'm sure it's great. Okay. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to turn off those sketch layers. So now I've just got this drawing here. Now I really have to slow down. I'm going to draw those eyeballs in there. His eyeballs, like I said before, maybe I'll turn the sketch back on. His eyeballs are a lot of fun. And again, it's unusual that you see so much of an iris. So I'm going to exaggerate that. If you look at the photo reference I'm using, eyelids do touch the bottom and the top of his irises. But in order to have more fun with it and make more of a statement, I'm going to make those eyes smaller. Oops. And a little bit skewy, a little bit screwy. I don't think this is right. Let me try this again. I do have a template for this as well, but I'm going to try to not use it because you can't see the template. All right. The pupil. Get my reflection in the pupil. And I'm going to go in there now. I'm going to fix this. This is my eraser. Fix this a little bit. The eyes really have to slow down, I find. I'm going to reduce my brush. I'm just going to give his irises some texture here. Just make him look human. All the while, I'm thinking about what I know about Fred Arneson. I'm also thinking about what I want to say about him. I think he's funny. He is funny. He's a comedian. And I'm a fan. So you can kind of tell. I mean, I'm not doing a mean drawing. I would never do a mean drawing anyway. It's a misconception of caricatures is that they're oftentimes mean-spirited. If you're doing mean-spirited caricatures, I think you're in the wrong business. Caricatures, I like to think of a caricature as a celebration of the subject. So, all right, here's my basic drawing of Fred. And it is difficult to talk and draw at the same time. But I'm going to go in and going to give him a little bit of color. If I can find my color layer. For Photoshop color, I'm a little unusual from a lot of other illustrators. I don't really have a set palette. I kind of wing it as I go. I rarely use the same flesh tone for anybody. I try to mix it as I see fit. I just think that makes it more fun for me. So now I'm just coloring in. I'm gonna block in some color here. I like to leave a lot of reflection on the outside. If you look at a lot of my stuff, and especially the mad stuff, you'll see I tend to leave reflections. I think the most important part of the coloring is what you don't color. So I like to leave a lot of highlights, I'd say, not reflections. I like to leave a lot of highlights and use highlights to my advantage rather than focusing on shadows. So I'm already thinking about where's the light going to hit. Okay, so and I'm building it up a little bit. I have the opacity set at 66 and the flow 73. Again, those two numbers I just kind of go, I don't really have them written down. I like to have each drawing be more spontaneous. So there's very few parameters that I always rely on, which is probably frustrating for anybody taking the course. But I do believe, you want to have some spontaneity in every drawing that you do. And, it makes it more interesting. So now I'm taking my eraser and I'm taking out where I don't want that flesh tone. And I'm not going to add my proper highlights just yet. I am going to go ahead and give him just kind of like add in I'm just going to do my blocky colors. So here's his hair. Always keeping in mind where the highlights are. The highlights are more important than the color, I think. I always, an old mentor of mine once explained that the color that we're when we color, and I always by that. Solid color, different story, but every color is you're mixing with light. Okay. Let's see your color. I do a lot of this with the color. Again, I like to be special with color. I tend to not rely on it, and I like to use as little as possible. If you were to go back and look at those live caricatures I showed you before, you'd notice that there's a different flesh tone each one. This is one thing I love about Photoshop, is I'm doing this guy's plaid shirt, but I can just be sloppy about it because I know that once I'm done, I can take my eraser and just erase all around that stuff. That's one of the advantages of doing this digitally. And what I'm doing here is kind of a cross between a live, I want to say party caricature and something for print, although I can't really see this being in print, but this is what the live drawings I generally do are. Those are quicker because I'm not talking all the way through them. And but you know, you get the point. More plaid. And I'm picturing him with kind of an ugly members only type jacket. I'm not sure why, just what my gut tells me. A lot about caricature is trusting your instincts. When you do a drawing, what you're generally drawing, what you're trying to bring to the foreground is your first impression of that person. So why live caricatures are very different than studio caricatures. Because in studio caricatures, you have to really have reference of the person you're drawing. But if you're drawing a live caricature of someone, your brain has to go to that part, to that area where you're just drawing a first impression. And that's kind of hard to, it's hard to do, it's hard to master, it's hard to explain. But when you do a caricature like this, you have to think of it like that. Like, what makes this guy different? How would I recognize this guy if I saw him on the street? Because human faces don't vary all that much. They only vary in millimeters. What makes this face different than every other face? And humans are just good at being able to, we unconsciously figure out the differences in people's faces. That's what it means to be human. But what a caricature artist does is a caricature artist brings that knowledge to the foreground, is able to manipulate it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to my shadow layer, and I reduce the opacity of my brush, and I'm using straight red. And I am just going to block in shadows as I need them. You can use more red where the skin is thinner, eyelids, nose, lips. And I'm just throwing it down there. I'm not getting too caught up with every individual stroke. I just want to kind of throw it down. Kind of like I think of it like kind of look like throwing a pot in pottery. You have to work quick. That line I didn't like. And then zoom out and look at it and see if it looks right. And where's my brush? Reduce the opacity even more, and I'm just kind of building up. And again, I am ducking in and out of my drawing to make sure that I get all different angles of this guy. And I'm using red as my shadow at this point. All right. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to take this color. I'm going to go to basic red, and I'm just going to darken it a little bit, and I'm going to do some darker shadows with my brush. I'm going to build it up a little bit more. I really need to get the shape of his lips down in here. He has a pretty serious underbite. There's going to be a shadow here on his lips. I want this upper lip to really come out at you. And I'm going to build up underneath his bottom lip. This just builds dimension. I want that. The highlight's going to be on this bottom lip more than this top lip. Shadow underneath the nose. Now I'm just kind of just going around and just adding shadows where I think they need to be added. What I'm doing now is what we're going to build up to. Probably in this 3/4 of the way through the class, being able to draw quick. Again, the focus is going to be how we build a caricature, how we go about thinking about a caricature. The techniques come later, but I really want to focus on what a caricature is, with the importance of it, and what we're trying to do. Why the hell would you want to do this anyway? Well, that's what I focus on. Techniques will come in the second half of the course. And building up and just going all around here. Build up his t-shirt. just gradually, just. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to paint and draw too much. I'm going to do some highlights. I'm going to go to white, but I don't want my white to be perfectly white. I want it to have a little bit of color into it. If you're ever doing oil painting or acrylic painting, you never really want to use white, proper white. You have to have a little, well, in my case, yellow, but just a little bit, just because white kind of dulls it down a bit, especially if it's going to be printed out. So I'm using my highlight color, and now I'm going to look at my reference. I'm just going to zoom in on this one just for the sake of argument here. And I'm going to see, where do I see? Oops. I'm going to add it here. His nose. Build up the snot chute a bit. It's a technical term for this thing underneath the nose. And I'm just going to throw highlights where I think they need to be. The lip. On top of the eyebrows. Just always a highlight here, just this part of the eye. Put some more in the hair, even though I have some in the hair, I want to put some more up there. So again, what I'm doing here is more along the lines of the quick sketch stuff. If you're doing a proper caricature for print, you're going to slow down and you're going to, be more careful. But I love to do drawings like this that are just more gestural, more, just it's just an exercise in caricature and anatomy. Okay, he has. I'm going to find his eye color. I think it's somewhere. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go. I think around there. I'm going to zoom in, go back to my color palette, my color layer. And again, my opacity and flow are down. Right 70, I guess. Actually, it's too dark. Reduce the opacity and flow to somewhere in the mid 40s. Build up one. I'm going to add some texture. I really want these eyes to really tell a story. Build it up. I'm going to zoom out. Now I think I need to add, I'm just going to kind of do some finishing touches here. I'm going to lower my opacity. I don't like how white those eyes are, so I'm going to shade them up a little bit. Obviously, whites of the eyes aren't properly white anyway, but for a caricature, I'll leave them white. So I'm just going to add some shadow there. I'm going to add a little bit of schmutz and highlights to the glasses. And I want to see, I'm just kind of paying attention to this to see if there's anything I could make, anything that's not right, anything that could be better. Always, of course, there's always things that could be better. But talking when you're doing these is really especially tough. Add a little highlight to his eyes here. And now I just want to give it the once over and see, well, where could I put highlights that might help bring this thing more to life? Those glasses. So that's all right. Let's just do a quick background. Put a quick background in Fred here. This is the basic run-of-the-mill quick sketch caricature. And I have to keep saying that in this class, we're going to focus on the quick sketch stuff We're also going to focus on final art and high quality caricatures for print. But yeah. Yeah. So there's a quick drawing of Fred. Not the best drawing in the world, but you get the point. That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of caricature we're going to be talking about. It's how to construct a face, how to build a face, focusing on features and how they relate to one another. And we're going to do it all by doing a whole lot of quick sketches and gesture drawings. Anyone who's been to art school knows what a gesture drawing is. Let's see, I'm going to do a quick other ones up here. Let's see. I have a keyboard here. I'm doing all my key commands. This picture, I think, is, the more I think about it, the more I like, the more I think this photo of him as Prince looks more like Fred than Fred does. So let's just take a quick, let's do a quick sketch and break our character down into shapes. This is that quick line, that quick blue line sketch I was working on before. Real gesture. I'm just going with my instinct and trusting my gut here. And this is what, more along the lines of what that initial underlying blue line sketch looked like. I'm just doing it darker now. Sketching, erasing what doesn't work, and just kind of seeing what comes out of my hand. Put this down. Reduce the opacity of that. This one's going to be, I'm just going to do a real quick one here, because the first one wasn't all that great. But I want to just build up the character here. What was that?
Weekend Warriors.
Oh boy.
We're right off the Coast Highway.
Oh my God, I was just there.
Yep.
The thing of drawing a character who's playing another character, that's a lot of fun. I rarely get to do this. Bringing his eyes closer and closer together. Here I can take this, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to do a quick sketch drawing based on this one drawing. I said you should. I don't like to rely. Again, I don't like to rely on one reference, but in this case, for the sake of demonstration, I kind of have to. I'm using that underlying blue line sketch as just a starting point. It's a great shot because his head is so skewed on one side. He's really pulling everything up over here. So that's fun to monkey with. And hair has a shape. Not worried about every individual hair. More worried about highlights than anything else. This is as quick and sketchy as it gets. It's a little better. Well, it's a lot easier to do these when I'm not talking the entire way. Put that away. All right. This is more of what I was shooting for with that first one. I'll go back and make changes and adjust things as I see fit. Add some details, some structure.
If it's all right with you, I'm gonna start asking you a couple of questions, and then for anybody who's here live, if you got questions, now's a great time. So,
Will I be able to hear?
what's that?
Or is this, or are they typing, or will I be able to hear?
No, I will. I'll reiterate. They'll be typing. I got a couple of different platforms up. Talk to me about anatomy, because caricature, I think, is one of those things where people you can get into it without a ton of anatomy, and it's a lot like stylized character design and creation, right? You can get into it without a lot of anatomy, but most people tend to plateau at a certain point.
Yeah. In my opinion, the best caricature artists and the best character designers are the people that know anatomy. You can't start doing stylized caricatures successfully without knowing what's going on. How does a face work? You know, what's going on? Why does this? What connects this nose to the mouth? What's this? I'll zoom in. And use a different color.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? You know, it's not just luck. I mean, everybody has the same lines. Everybody has the same faces, and faces are all constructed basically the same. And if you understand that and you know that, you can use all that knowledge to your advantage. So I do think that having anatomy is more important. I think there's a lot of caricature artists who just, you know, well, I don't really know how to put it, but there's a lot of caricature artists who kind of have one face that they draw, and they maybe manipulate a little bit to fit that person. This is the exact opposite of that. What we want to do is we want to have the fundamentals of anatomy down, and then We want to be able to use that knowledge to our advantage in telling the story of the face. There's a lot going on in the face. I mean, all this stuff, I'm going to zoom in here. This line here, let's see. This line here, down the, all this stuff. This is, everybody has these same muscles and tissues, but his are constructed in a certain way that makes it unique to him. Why wouldn't you want to learn what's going on there, so you don't have to start each drawing with a bunch of guesswork? You want to know, there's bone here,
yep.
Here, the bone ends here, the cartilage is here. You know, there's a muscle here. This contracts when you smile, pulls things up. When you know stuff like this, then it'll just help you do a better caricature. You can become a successful party caricaturist without having to know all this stuff. But what I'm shooting for is beyond that. I want to do the caricatures that I focus on are things that are characters that are anatomically accurate and frankly really, really good. Sounds really smarmy, but why wouldn't you want to know the anatomy? I mean, all these things are important. You see these wrinkles off the side of his crow's feet here? What causes those? Let's talk about that. Let's work on that. That way, when you see someone with these lines here, you know how to manipulate them and use them to your advantage.
Got it. Now, that leads to the next question, which is, you're learning anatomy. How do you refrain from anatomy taking over, right? How do you keep it stylized and fun?
That's a great question. There's a fine line between your anatomy lessons and having fun with the caricature. What the caricature is simply having fun with it. It's you being comfortable with the anatomy and being able to manipulate it. Anatomy will never really get in the way. I mean, we're not going to become such masters of anatomy that we can't manipulate it. You just have to have an underlying, and we're not going to talk about what each tooth is called or what the names of all these. What this thing here has a name, this has a name, and this has a name. We're not going to worry about. We're not going to get that detailed, but we just want to have a basic understanding of what's going on. Why does this line connect here? And if you know that, for example, like I said before, there's this piece of tissue here at the end of the mouth, outside of that goes to the smile line. There's this piece that generally it got like the shape of the size of a pea. These are larger. We know that there's something there. So if we see something bunched up on the side of his mouth, going back, you can see it really. It's really prevalent in this one here. See, he's got this this dimple here, this thing here. His is really pronounced. And there's things like that. His jaw, like this line here underneath the smile lines. This is teeth pushing out to the cheeks, and then that leads to the chin, and all this stuff it can be learned. The more that you know, the more successful of a caricaturist you're going to be. There's just no way around it.
Great.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I know one of the pitfalls that we fall into, you can get into a love of anatomy, and that just leads you to a dry spell. What are some of the first? Well, actually, what I wanted to know is what got you into caricature. Like, what inspired you to go down this direction?
I got into caricatures. First of all, I was never really good at much of anything else. I was always a drawer. And in 5th grade, I think it was, someone showed me a Mad magazine.
Yeah.
And I know which issue it was. I have it. I know it was on the cover. And I had never seen anything like that before. And that's where I first saw caricatures. I probably saw them at theme parks, because I grew up not far from Chicago. We have a big theme park over there. I'm sure I watched the caricature artists there, but didn't really register until I saw it in print. Then I'd go back to the theme park and I'd see the caricature artists there. And at the theme park that I lived by, it happened to have some of the world's best caricature artists were getting their starts there. And I can talk about that as well. I just simply was gravitated to how you could do a drawing with so few lines that would end up looking like the subject. I was fascinated by that. And frankly, I still am.
Yeah. And what does caricature mean to you, like in terms of your art and your craft?
Let's see. Please.
Yeah,
I just turned on the video. Oh, look out.
there you go.
Take my dopey glasses off. What does caricature mean to me? Caricature, what we're talking about here in drawing the face, everything I draw, I do a lot of advertising work. Everything I draw goes back to an understanding of caricature. It's putting your spin on things, making a statement about things. If you have to draw, if I have to draw this drawing table, for example, I'm not going to sit and draw it precisely and measure angles. I'm going to draw my version of that drawing table. Just an easy example because I can see it in my screen and it's here. Yeah. It's you making a statement what you're drawing, and everything I do in work is exactly that. So generally, almost it could be argued that everything I draw, everything, almost I guess it's kind of a broad statement, but any artist who draws anything is putting their own interpretation on that subject, and that could be described as doing a caricature. You're giving your representation of an object, be it a person, be it a chair, be it a glass of water, be it a TV. It's your version of that, and that's what a caricature is.
Yeah.
A caricature is all about being able to absorb what you're looking at and translate it, and having come out of your hand your version of that thing. And that's what a caricature is. I just happen to be fascinated with the faces, drawing people. And not just faces, by the way. We're going to do, in a class, we're going to do a lot about full bodies. We're going to, hands. Hands say a lot. I mean, someone's personality comes through in their hands as much as it does their face, right. Their posture. I kind of deviated there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not to worry. No, that's actually exactly what I wanted to know, because these are the parts of the things that you're passionate about, and so telling a story, is a very important part. And that kind of leads to the next thing, because, you were doing caricatures in a theme park, and now you've gone to writing your own book or illustrating. And talk to me about the journey for you developing to where you are today.
The journey is just a matter of sticking with it. I drew caricatures, this is history. I drew caricatures all summer for years, beginning in 1991, 1992.
Yep.
And I would
you're a little
draw,
far from the mic.
I would draw all summer, yeah. And in the off season, I would make enough over the summertime to support myself in the off season. So that's where I started to work and advance my illustration career. That's when I started to. I got into Cracked magazine. I got in a lot of small magazines. In the 90s, there were, that was the end of the magazine era. But I got in. It was a magazine for everything. So I got into little niche magazines, doing editorial cartoons here and there. I did a lot of caricature, but not everything was caricature based. I'm a commercial illustrator. So if someone hires me to, especially when I was new. Someone hired me to draw something, I draw it. They would say, I've gotten asked numerous times, especially in the early days, can you draw a tractor? Yeah, I can draw a tractor. And I still have this folder because I have everything I've ever drawn, pretty much since I've been a professional, I have in a hard drive. And every now and then I come across the folder of just some horrible, horrible jobs. I had one where it paid the rent for two months, but I drew a tractor, a school bus, a John Deere something or other, a lawnmower, and I had to make it look somewhat photoreal. And it was one of my first digital drawings, and I did it using a mouse, and I was miserable. Yeah. And I still like doing it because all the while I knew that I was drawing, and I was getting paid to do drawings, which is all I really wanted to do. As I grew and got older, it's just I'm lucky enough that I get more work that is more akin to what we're talking about here. I always want to get into MAD. MAD was always a dream. I started that whole thing by getting into Cracked magazine. If anybody remembers Cracked, I did movie parodies for those guys. Not saying they're already good, but I did it. I got it under my belt. And that eventually led to other jobs, and eventually into Mad. And but I don't just do Mad. Mad's, I'm Mad is a one job a month, hopefully. But I do a lot of advertising, so I was always good at being open, being able to see opportunities. If you would have told me 20 years ago I'd be making most of my income in advertising, I would have thought that was okay. That's weird. I don't see that coming. And I just had a book come out, and I didn't see that coming. I'm really good at being able to just be open to new opportunities.
Yeah, that's
great. Who thought about it? That's a good question.
Good.
I should write that down.
Sorry, they're tiny.
I'm a commercial artist, so I'm happy to draw. I'm lucky enough now, and frankly, I'm blessed enough to be able to. The work I get now is generally the work I want to do. Mm-hmm. But when you're starting out and you're a new commercial artist, you kind of have to pay your dues and do everything that comes in. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
It also helps you figure out what you want to do. I had no idea. Like I said, I do a lot of advertising work, and I really enjoy it. I wouldn't have pursued it, but a door opened up, I went into it, and it turns out I really kind of enjoy working in advertising. It's fun. That's it.
If you weren't doing this, what would you do?
Yeah, I would be probably homeless, broke. I'm sure I'd be a really good pickpocket.
Yeah,
I have long fingers. Yeah.
This is good. This is good. All right. Well, that's another alternative.
That should be my life. Yeah. Hey.
That's great. All right. So, entrepreneurial spirit is one of the things I really get from you. You think it's really like essential for commercial artists to, like, what is it? Drive? Is it hunger? Is it entrepreneurial spirit? Is it ambition? What is it? How do you think about that part of you which goes out, gets the jobs, finds the jobs, does the work, and pushes through? And I'll add this one little bit, because it's also in the context of, people look at artists and they say, well, artists are, flighty and, they're emotional and they're whatever. But you and I know that, this is like, we might be whatever, but this is work. And we train for this.
Yeah. I think the most important part of being a successful artist, at least a commercial artist, the only thing I can speak for is being a commercial artist. The most important part of that is God, this is a great debate, but I stand by it. You have to be business first. You have to be good at business. I know countless artists who are way more talented than I ever was, and ever could be, who aren't doing anything because they don't know how to organize. They don't know how to run their life. They don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to do this and that. You have to know all that stuff. Clients have to want to work with you. If you get a job, you have to conduct yourself in a professional manner. You have a chip on your shoulder. All right, that's fine. It might work for you. I don't. I'm grateful to get every job. Entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't consider myself an artist. I consider myself something else, and that's another one that's my wife and I love to have that debate. Being an artist is just what I do. It's not what defines me. I am a commercial artist, but I also like to cook. I do a lot of other stuff. It's my job. I really enjoy my job, but I'm not defined by what I do at work. I just happen to really enjoy what I do. You could say that thinking about caricatures and caricature in general might be a hobby. It's a great hobby that bleeds into my real work. But I don't think of myself as just an artist. I think of myself I'd like to think that I'm good at business. If I could go back to college, I would take more business classes. I would actually probably major in business if I could go back to college. Not disparaging my college, it was great. But No one taught me how to build a portfolio. No one taught me how to do an invoice. No one taught me accounting, that kind of stuff. They taught me how to sling paint. Even then, you can't. There's only so much you can learn in school. You have to learn how to watercolor outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
The book is all watercolor. Yeah, that probably doesn't answer your question.
Yeah, but it gets to the point. So when did that shift? Because at one point, you must have saw yourself as an artist primarily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. When I was a teenager and when I was early in college, yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder. My friends who knew me back then are happy to back me up on that. Yeah, I just realized because I dropped out of school a year early, much to the dismay of my mom and my grandmother. But I had to go get work, and I got a job. I went to business with a buddy of mine. We opened up a couple caricature operations at theme parks in different cities,
Mm-hmm.
and learned that business was most important. I also had to manage people. I trained and taught people how to do caricatures for like 15 years, and I learned that you have to be good. You have to bring. I'm not a real big believer in talent, but I do believe you're born with something. You have to have that. Fine, but the most important thing is having the discipline to learn, to manage, and to basically juggle all the balls at once. Accounting, management, training, organizing, ordering, all that stuff that I got a crash course on in the theme parks. That translates into what I do now. I'm very structured with my accounting, very structured with my invoicing. I do all my own business stuff, and I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it. And that's been. I wouldn't be nearly as successful if you think I'm successful, which is debatable. I would be much less so if I didn't get good at the business side of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's actually a whole other seminar.
Yeah, we'll have to have that.
How do you sustain yourself as a commercial artist? It's not just being able to draw good. That part just has to be. That's a given. You have to do that. Mm-hmm. It's the other stuff that's so important that's overlooked. It was overlooked in my schooling completely. I hope I don't see this.
Good. We'll expire this quickly enough.
Yeah.
All right. So. Okay. What is the one thing you really want your students to get? Like the thing that you really communicate and want them to get?
What I want my students to get, and my students are going to be people who are interested in caricatures. I'm anxious to see if I get brand new caricature artists or if I get seasoned caricature artists who want to learn spin on things.
Yeah.
What I want them to learn is the importance of the art, how it pertains to the real world in many different forms, and to learn my view of caricature, which is that caricature is a celebration of your subject. Whether you're drawing like I said, whether you're drawing a person or an animal or a chair or a light, you have to put love and admiration into that thing. I'm good friends with a lot of political cartoonists. I am not one of those. I give them full credit and I love them to death. But there's a lot of venom spewed to politicians and public figures by some caricaturists. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's not the way I see it. I'd just as soon not draw people I don't like. But if I do have to draw people I don't like, which has happened many times, there's always good that you can find in people. And I really focus on that. And that's the word I would like to spread to caricature artists. It sounds a bit high and mighty, and I apologize for that. But what I do is, and what I really want to teach is that you're celebrating your subject. Then, the fundamentals and all that stuff, that's the fun stuff. But the overlying theme is that we're not in this to be mean. We're not in this to spit venom at people. The point of these caricatures is to celebrate the subject.
Yeah.
So there's obviously more to it than that, but that is an overlying theme. I also want people to understand how important anatomy is, how important it is to learn how to actually draw. You should have some it's if you have training in portraiture, all the better. All that stuff is going to come in handy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach general basic anatomy that you can use that will apply to any form of caricature you choose to go into after this, and hopefully add on. If they're seasoned caricaturists or seasoned artists, I hope to add on to what they know to make them a better artist. Awesome. That's my goal.
Sounds great. All right, thanks, Ed. Thanks so much for joining me and for doing those demonstrations.
It was my pleasure. I just noticed that I have Superman's feet sticking out of my ear on the screen right now. I hope everybody gets that.
That's right.
All
right.
Sitting here talking about luck, like this and that, and I have feet sticking out of my head. So that was my pleasure.
Good. Bad Kitty.
Thank you, everyone who stuck around to watch this.
Yeah, no, sorry, go for it.
And that's it. I just want to thank everyone for watching, and this class will be a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah, I'm excited for it. So thank you so much. And there was 2 demos, so I'll make sure that we get a replay and all that stuff around. Bad Kitty, thanks for the note. And the I've got several recordings going, so I'll get you the one that works for you. All right, take care, Ed. Have a great night.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, now I gotta ciao. Oh, head over to you, Artsy.